And I'm going to read from Necronomicon. Yeah, let's get started. It smells like an old book. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm going to show you the art on the pages. It's the beginning of the book. This is the testimony of all that I have seen, and all that I have learned in those years that I have possessed the 3 seals of Mashu. I have seen 1,001 moons. Surely this is enough for the span of a man's life, though it is said that the prophets lived much longer. I am weak and ill, and bear a great tiredness and exhaustion, and a sigh hangs in my breast like a dark lantern. I am old. The wolves carry my name in their midnight speeches, and that quiet, subtle voice is summoning me from afar. And a voice much closer will shout into my ear with unholy impatience. The weight of my soul will decide its final resting place. Before that time, I must put down here all that I can concerning the horrors that stalk without, and which lie in wait at the door of every man. For this is the ancient arcana that has been handed down of old, but which has been forgotten by all but a few men, the worshippers of the ancient ones. May their names be blotted out. And if I do not finish this task, take what is here and discover the rest. For time is short, and mankind does not know nor understand the evil that awaits it from every side, from every open gate, from every broken barrier, from every mindless acolyte at the altars of madness. For this is the book of the dead, the book of the black earth, that I have writ down at the peril of my life, exactly as I received it, on the plains of the Igigi, the Igigi, the cruel celestial spirits from beyond the wanderers of the wastes. Let all who read this book be warned thereby, that the habituation of men are seen and surveyed by that ancient race of gods and demons from a time before time, and that they seek revenge for that forgotten battle that took place somewhere in the cosmos and rent the worlds in the days before the creation of man, when the elder gods walked the spaces, the race of Marduk, as he is known to the Chaldeans, and of Enki our master, the lord of magicians. Know then that I have trod all the zones of the gods, and also the places of Azanai, and have descended into the foul places of death and eternal thirst, which may be reached out through the gate of Ganzir, which was built in Ur in the days before Babylon was. Know, too, that I have spoken with all manner of spirit and demon, whose names are no longer known in the society of man, or were never known, and the seals of some of these are writ herein, yet others I must take with me when I leave you. Anu, have mercy on my soul. I have seen the unknown lands that no map has ever charted. I have lived in the deserts and the wastelands, and spoken with demons and the souls of slaughtered men, and of women who have died in childbirth, victims of the she-fiend Lamashta. I have traveled beneath the seas in search of the palace of our master, and found the stone monuments of vanquished civilizations, and deciphered the writings of some of these, while still others remain mysteries to any man who lives. And these civilizations were destroyed because of the knowledge contained in this book. I have traveled among the stars and trembled before the gods. I have at last found the formula by which I passed the gate of Azrir, and passed into the forbidden realms of the foul Igigi. I have raised demons and the dead. I have summoned the ghosts of my ancestors to real and visible appearance on the tops of temples built to reach the stars, and built to touch the nethermost cavities of Hades. I have wrestled with the black magician, Azagthoth, in vain, and fled to the earth by calling upon Inanna and her brother Marduk, lord of the double-headed axe. I have raised armies against the lands of the east by summoning the hordes of fiends I have made subject unto me. Found Ngaa, the god of the heathens, who breathes flame and roars like 1,000 thunders. I have found fear. I have found the gate that leads to the outside by which the ancient ones, who ever seek entrance to our world, keep eternal watch. I have smelled the vapors of that ancient one, queen of the outside, whose name is writ in the terrible Magan text, the testament of some dead civilization whose priests, seeking power, swing open the dread, evil gate for an hour past the time, and were consumed. I came to possess this knowledge through circumstances quite peculiar, while still the unlettered son of a shepherd in what is called Mesopotamia by the Greeks. When I was only a youth traveling alone in the mountains to the east, called Mashu by the people who live there, I came upon a gray rock carved with 3 strange symbols. It stood as high as a man and as wide around as a bull. It was firmly in the ground, and I could not move it. Thinking no more of the carvings, save that they might be the work of a king to mark some ancient victory over an enemy, I built a fire at its foot to protect me from the wolves that wander in those regions, and went to sleep, for it was night, and I was far from my village, being Bet-Darabia, being about 3 hours from dawn. In the 19th of Shabbatu, I was awakened by the howl of a dog, and perhaps a wolf, uncommonly loud and close at hand. The fire had died to its embers, and these red glowing coals cast a faint dancing shadow across the stone monument with the 3 carvings. I began to make haste to build another fire when, at once, the gray rock began to rise slowly into the air, as though it were a dove. I could not move or speak, for the fear that seized upon my spine and wrapped cold fingers around my skull. The Deek of Azugbelia was no stranger to me than this sight, though the former seemed to melt into my hands. Presently, I heard a voice, softly, some distance away, and a more practical fear, that of the possibility of robbers, took hold of me, and I rolled behind some weeds, trembling. Another voice joined the first. Soon several men in the black robes of thieves came together over the place where I was, surrounding the floating rock, of which they did not exhibit the least fright. I could see clearly now that the 3 carvings on the stone monument were glowing a flame-red color, as though the rock were on fire. The figures were murmuring together in prayer or invocation, of which only a few words could be heard. And these, in some unknown tongue, though, Anu, have mercy on my soul. These rituals are not unknown to me any longer. The figures, whose faces I could not see or recognize, began to make wild passes in the air, with knives that glinted cold and sharp in the mountain night. From beneath the floating rock, out of the very ground where it had sat, came rising the tail of a serpent. This serpent was surely larger than any I had ever seen. The thinnest section thereof was fully that of the arms of 2 men, and as it rose from the earth it was followed by another, although the end of the first was not seen, as it seemed to reach down into the very pit itself. These were followed still more, and the ground began to tremble under the pressure of so many of these enormous arms. The chanting of the priests, for I knew them now to be servants of some hidden power, became much louder and very nearly hysterical. Ya, Ziazag, ya, Ziazak, ya, Cthulhu Zikur, ya. The ground where I was hiding became wet with some substance, being slightly downhill from the scene I was witnessing. I touched the wetness and found it to be blood. In horror, I screamed and gave my presence away to the priests. They turned toward me, and I saw with loathing that they had cut their chests with the daggers they had used to raise the stone, for some mystical purpose I could not then divine, although I now know that blood is very food of these spirits, which is why the field after the battles of war glows with an unnatural light. The manifestations of the spirits feeding their may Anu protect us all. My scream had the effect of casting their ritual into chaos and disorder. I raced through the mountain path by which I had come, and the priests came running after me, although some seemed to stay behind, perhaps to finish the rites. However, as I ran wildly down the slopes in the cold night, my heart giving rise in my chest and my head growing hot, the sound of splitting rocks and thunder came from behind me and shook the very ground I ran upon. In fright and in haste, I fell from the earth. Checking in. I'm reading Necronomicon. Thank you for joining me. Rising, I turned to face whatever attacker had come nearest me, though I was unarmed. And to my surprise, what I saw was no priest of ancient horror, no necromancer of that forbidden art, but black robes fallen upon the grass and weeds, with no seeming presence of life or bodies beneath them. I walked cautiously to the first, and picking up a long twig, lifted the robe from the tangle of weeds and thorns. All that remained of the priest was a pool of slime like green oil, and the smell of a body lain long to rot in the sun. Such a stench nearly overpowered me, but I was resolute to find the others, to see if the same fortune had also befallen them. Walking back up the slope that I had so fearfully run down only moments ago, I came across yet another of the dark priests, in identical condition to the first. I kept walking, passing more of the robes as I went, not venturing to overturn them any longer. Then I finally came upon the gray stone monument that had risen unnaturally into the air at the command of the priests. It was now upon the ground once more, but the carving still glowed with supernatural light. The serpents, or what I had then thought of as serpents, had disappeared, but in the dead embers of the fire, now cold and black, was a shining metal plate. I picked it up and saw that it was also carved, as the stone, but very intricately after a fashion I could not understand. It did not bear the same markings as the stone, but I had the feeling I could almost read the characters, but could not, as though I once knew the tongue, but had since long forgotten. My head began to ache as though a devil was pounding my skull. When a shaft of moonlight struck the metal amulet, for I know now what it was, and a voice entered into my head and told me the secret of the scene I had witnessed in one word, Cthulhu. In that moment, as though whispered fiercely into my ear, I understood. These are the signs carved upon the gray stone that was at the gate to the outside. And this is the amulet that I held in my hand and hold to this very day around my neck as I write these words. Of the three carved symbols, the first is the sign of our race from beyond the stars, and is called Ara in the tongue of the scribe who taught it to me, an emissary of the elder ones, in the tongue of the eldest city of Babylon. It was Ur. It is the sigil of the covenant of the elder gods, and when they see it, they who gave it to us, they will not forget us. They have sworn. Spirit of the skies, remember. The second is the elder sign, and this is the key whereby the powers of the elder gods may be summoned, when used with the proper words and shapes. Aga. The third sign is the sigil of the Watcher. It is called Bandar. The Watcher is a race sent by the Elder Ones. It keeps vigil while one sleeps, provided the appropriate ritual and sacrifice has been performed. Else, if called, it will turn upon you. These seals, to be effective, must be graven on stone and set in the ground, or set upon the altar of offerings, or carried to the rock of invocations, or engraved on the metal of one's god or goddess, and hung about the neck, but hidden from the view of the profane. Of these three, the Ara and the Aga may be used separately. Hey.
Oh, hey.
How are you?
Good. What's up?
These seals, to be effective, must be graven on stone and set in the ground, or set upon the altar of offerings, or carried to the rock of invocations, or engraved on the metal of one's god or goddess, and hung about the neck, but hidden from the view of the profane. Of these three, the Ara and the Aga may be used separately, that is to say, singly and alone. The Bandar, however, must never be used alone, but with one or both of the others. For the Watcher must needs be reminded of the covenant it has sworn with the elder gods and our race. else it will turn upon thee and slay thee and ravage thy town until succor is to be had from the elder gods by the tears of thy people and the wailing of thy women. Kakamu, the metal amulet that I retrieved from the ashes of the fire, which caught the light of the moon, is a potent seal against whatever may come in the gate from the outside. Foreseeing it, they will retreat from thee, save only if it catch the light of the moon upon its surface. For in the dark days of the moon, or in clouds, there can be little protection against the fiends from the ancient land should they break the barrier, or be led in by their servants upon the face of the earth. In such a case, no recourse is to be had until the light of the moon shines upon the earth. For the moon is the eldest among Zonai, and is the starry symbol of our pact. Nana, father of the gods, remember. Wherefore the amulet must be engraved upon fierce silver, in the full light of the moon, that the moon shine upon it at its working, and the essence of the moon be drawn down and captured therein. And the proper incantations must be performed, and the prescribed rituals given forth in this book. And the amulet must never be exposed to the light of the sun, for Shamash called Udu, in his jealousy, will rob the seal of its power. In such a case, it must be bathed in waters of camphor, and the incantations and ritual performed once again. But verily, it were better to engrave another. These secrets I give to thee at the pain of my life, never to be revealed to the profane, or the banished, or the worshippers of the ancient serpent, but to keep within thine own heart, always silent upon these things. Peace be to thee. Henceforth, from that fateful night in the mountains of Mashu, I wandered about the countryside in search of the key to the secret knowledge that had been given me. And it was a painful and lonely journey, during which time I took no wife, called no house or village my home, and dwelt in various countries, often in caves or in the deserts, learning several tongues as a traveler might learn them, to bargain with the tradespeople and learn of their news and customs. But my bargaining was with the powers that reside in each of these countries. As soon as I came to understand many things of which I had no knowledge before, except perhaps in dreams, the friends of my youth deserted me, and I them. What I was 7 years gone from my family, I learned what they all had died of their own hand, for reasons no one was able to tell me. Their flocks had later been slain as the victims of some strange epidemic. I wandered as a beggar, being fed from town to town as the local people saw fit, often being stoned instead, and threatened with imprisonment. On occasion, I was able to convince some learned man that I was a sincere scholar, and was thereby permitted to read the ancient records in which the details of necromancy, sorcery, magic, and alchemy are given. I learned of the spells that cause men illness, the plague, blindness, insanity, and even death. I learned of the various classes of demons and evil gods that exist, and of the old legends concerning the ancient ones. I was thus able to arm myself against the dread Maskim, who lie in wait about the boundaries of the world, ready to trap the unwary and devour the sacrifices set out at night and in deserted places, against also the she-devil Lamashta, who is called the sword that splits the skull, the sight of whom causeth horror and dismay, and some say, death of a most uncommon nature. In time, I learned the names and properties of all the demons, devils, fiends, and monsters listed herein, in this book of the Black Earth. I learned of the powers of the astral gods, and how to summon their aid in times of need. I learned, too, of the frightful beings who dwell beyond the astral spirits, who guard the entrance to the temple of the lost, of the Ancient of Days, the Ancient of the Ancient Ones, whose name I cannot write here. In my solitary ceremonies in the hills, worshipping with fire and sword, with water and dagger, with the assistance of a strange grass that grows wild in certain parts of the Mashu, and with I built my fire before the rock, that grass that gives the mind great power to travel tremendous distances, into the heavens and also into the hells. I received the formulae for the amulets and talismans, which follow, which provide the priest with safe passage among the spheres wherein he may travel in search of the wisdom. But now, after 1001 moons of the journey, the Maskim nip at my heels, the Rabishu pull at my hair, the Mashta opens her dread jaws, as Zagthoth gloats blindly at his throne. Cthulhu raises his head and stares up through the veils of sunken Varlund, up through the abyss, and fixes his stare upon me, wherefore I must with haste write this book, lest my end come sooner than I had prepared. For indeed it appears as though I have failed in some regard as to the order of the rites, or to the formula, or to that sacrifices, for now it appears as if the entire host of Ereshkigal lies waiting, dreaming, drooling for my departure. I pray the gods that I am saved, but and not perish as did the priest Abdul ben Martu in Jerusalem. The gods remember and have mercy upon him. My fate is no longer written in the stars, for I have broken the Chaldean covenant by seeking power over the Zonii. I have set foot on the moon, and the moon no longer has power over me. The lines of my life have been obliterated by my wanderings in the waste, over the letters written in the heavens by the gods, and even now I can hear the wolves howling in the mountains as they did that fateful night, and they are calling my name, and the names of others. I fear for my flesh, but I fear for my spirit more. Remember always, in every empty moment, to call upon the gods not to forget thee, for they are forgetful and very far away. Light thy fires high in the hills and on the tops of temples and pyramids, that they may see and remember. Remember always to copy each of the formulae as I have put it down, and not to change it by one line or dot, not so much as a hair's breadth, lest it be rendered valueless, or worse. A broken line provides means of entrance for those outside, for a broken star is the gate of Ganzir, the gate of death, the gate of the shadows and the shells. Recite the incantations as they are written there, in the manner that is thus prescribed. Prepare the rituals without erring, and in the proper places, and times render the sacrifices. May the gods ever merciful be unto thee. May thou escape the jaws of Maxim, and vanquish the power of the Ancient Ones. And the gods grant thee death before the Ancient Ones rule the earth once more. Kakamu Selah. Okay, we're in the next chapter. I'm gonna take a minute. It's odd to do a daytime reading. Hit that notifications button. Thank you for joining me, you guys. I'm gonna check out how it's going. Thank you for joining me. So we're reading Necromomicon today. It's my first attempt at a daytime reading. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out a good position. Okay, we're on chapter 2 of the Zonii and their attributes. The gods of the stars are 7. They have 7 seals, each of which may be used in their turn. They are approached by 7 gates, each of which may be opened in their turn. They have 7 colors, 7 material essences, and each a separate step on the ladder of lights. The Chaldeans were but imperfect in their knowledge, although they had understanding of the ladder, and certain of the formula. They did not, however, possess the formula for the passing of the gates, save one, of whom it is forbidden to speak. The passing of the gates gives the priest both power and wisdom to use it. He becomes able to control the affairs of his life more perfectly than before, and many have been content to merely pass the first 3 gates, and then sit down and go no further than that, enjoying the benefits that they have found on the preliminary spheres. But this is evil, for they are not equipped to deal with the attack from without that must surely come. And their people will cry unto them for safety, and it will not come forth. Therefore, set thy face toward the ultimate goal, and strive ever onward to the furthest reaches of the stars, though it mean thine own death, for such a death is as a sacrifice to the gods, and pleasing, that they will not forget their people. The Zonii and their attributes, then, are as follows. The god of the moon is the god Nana. He is father of the Zonii, and eldest of the Wanderers. He is long of beard, and bears a wand of lapis lazuli in his palm, and possesses the secret of the tides of blood. His color is silver. His essence is to be found in silver, and in camphor, and in those things bearing the sign of the moon. He is sometimes called Sin. His gait is the first you will pass on the rituals that follow. His step on the ladder of lights is also silver. This is his seal, which you must engrave on the metal on the 13th day of the moon in which you are working. Here's a picture of the seal. Spooky. This is the seal which you must engrave on his metal on the 13th day of the moon in which you are working, having no other person about you who may watch you in its manufacture. Being finished, it should be wrapped in a square of the finest silk and lain aside until such time as you desire its use, and then it should be removed only after the sun has gone to rest. No ray of sunlight should strike the seal, lest its power be rendered nil, and a new seal must needs be cast. The number of Nana is 30, and this is his seal. The god of mercy is Nebo. He is a very old spirit, having a long beard, and is the guardian of the gods, as well as the keeper of the knowledge of science. He wears a crown, one of 100 thorns, and the long robe of the priest. His color is blue. His essence is that of the metal known as quicksilver, and is sometimes also found in sand. And in those things bearing the sign of Mercury, his gait is the second you will pass in the rituals that follow. His step on the ladder of lights is blue. This is his seal, which you must write on perfect parchment, or on the broad leaf of a palm tree, having no other person about you who may watch you in its construction. Being finished, it should be wrapped in a square of the finest silk, and lain aside until such time as you desire its use. And then it should be removed only when its light is in the sky. Such is also the best time for its manufacture. The number of Nebo is 12, and this is its seal. I like that. Those were emojis from ancient times. It's like the arcane emojis of the spirits. I like that interpretation. Runes are just emoji from another realm. The goddess of Venus is the most excellent queen Inanna, called of the Babylonians Ishtar. She is the goddess of passion, both of love and of war, depending on her sign and the time of her appearance in the heavens. She appears as a most beautiful lady in the company of lions, and partakes of a subtle astral nature with the moon god Nana, when they are in agreement, that is, when their two planets are auspiciously arranged in the heavens. It is as to offering cups split freely in the heavens, to rain the sweet wine of the gods upon the earth. And then there is great happiness and rejoicing. She sometimes appears in armor, and is thereby a most excellent guardian against the machinations of her sister, the dread queen Ereshkigal of Kur. With the name and number of Inanna, no priest need fear to walk into the very depths of the underworld, for being armed in her armor, he is similar to the goddess. It was thus that I descended into the foul pits that lie gaping beneath the crust of the earth, and commanded demons. She is similarly the goddess of love, and bestows a favorable bride upon any man who desires it, and who makes the proper sacrifice. But know that Inanna takes her own for her own, and that once chosen by her, no man may take another bride. Her color is the purest white. Her manifestation is the copper metal, and also is the most beautiful flowers of the field. And in the saddest death of the battlefield, which is that field's fairest flower, her gate is the third, which you will pass in the rites that follow, in which place you will be of a heart to stay, but turn your face to the road that leads beyond, for that is your genuine goal, unless the goddess chooses you. Her step on the ladder of lights, built of old in Babylon and at Ur, is white. This is her seal, which you must engrave on copper. Venus being exalted into the heavens, with no one about watching its construction. Being finished, it is to be wrapped in the purest silk and lain safely away, only to be removed when the need arises, at any time. The number of Inanna is 15, by which number she is frequently known in the incantations of the dispensation, and her seal is the following. The god of the sun is the Lord Shamash, son of Inanna. He is seated upon the throne of gold, wearing a crown of 2 horns, holding a scepter aloft in his right hand, and a flame disk in his life, sending rays in every direction. He is the god of light and of life. His color is gold. His essence is to be found in gold, and in all golden objects and plants. He is sometimes called Udu. His gate is the 4th you will pass in the rituals that follow. His step on the great ladder of lights is gold. This is his seal, which you must engrave in gold when the sun is exalted in the heavens, alone on a mountain top or some such place close to the rays, but alone. Being finished, it should be wrapped in a square of the finest silk and lain aside until such time as it is needed. The number of Shamash is 20, and this is his seal. The god of Mars is the mighty Nergal. He has the head of a man on the body of a lion, and bears a sword and flail. He is the god of war, and of the fortunes of war. He is sometimes thought to be an agent of the Ancient Ones, for he dwelt in Kutha for a time. His color is dark red. His essence is to be found in iron, and in all weapons made to spill the blood of men and of animals. His gate is the 5th, you will see, as you pass the zones and the rituals that follow. His step on the ladder of light is red. This is his seal, which must be engraved on a plate of iron, or on paper in blood, when Mars is in exaltation of the heavens. It is best done at night, far from the habitations of men and of animals, where you cannot be seen or heard. It must be wrapped first in heavy cloth, then in fine silk, and hid safe away until such times as it is needed. But take care not to use this seal hastily, for it is a sharp sword. The number of Nergal is 8, and this is his seal. The god of Jupiter is the lord of magicians. Marduk Kurios of the double-headed axe. Marduk was born of our father Enki to do battle against the forces of the Ancient Ones, and he won a powerful fight, subduing the armies of evil and putting the queen of the Ancient Ones beneath his foot. That serpent is dead, but dreams. Marduk was bestowed 50 names and powers by the council of the elder gods, which powers he retains to this day. His color is purple. His essence is in the material tin and in brass. His gate is the 6th that you will come upon as you follow the rituals that follow. His step on the ladder of lights is purple. This is his seal, which you must engrave on a plate of tin or brass. When Jupiter is strong in the heavens, while making special invocation to Enki, our master, this shall be wrought as the others, and wrapped in pure silk and lain away until this time for its use. Know that Marduk appears as a mighty warrior with a long beard and a flaming disc in his hands. He carries a bow and a quiver of arrows, and treads about the heavens, keeping the watch. Take care to summon his assistance in only the most terrible of circumstances, for his might is powerful, and his anger fierce. When thou hast need of the powers of the star Jupiter, call instead one of the appropriate powers listed within these pages, and they will surely come. The number of Marduk is 10, and this is his seal. The god of Saturn is Ninib, called... Oh, I'll show the seal. The god of Jupiter... Oh, next page. The god of Saturn is Ninib, called Adar. The lord of hunters and of strength. He appears with a crown of horns and a long sword, wearing a lion's skin. He is the final Zoni before the terrible Ijiji. His color is the darkest black. His essence is to be found in lead, in the burnt embers of the fire, and in things of death and of antiquity. The horns of a stag are his symbol. His gate is the last you will come upon in the rites that follow. His step on the ladder of lights is black. This is his seal, which you must engrave on a leaden plate or bowl, keeping it well hidden from the eyes of the profane. It should be wrapped and put away as all of the others, until it is desired. It should never be removed when the sun is in the sky, but only after the night has fallen and the earth grown black, For Ninib knows best the ways of the demons that prowl among the shadows, looking for sacrifice. He knows best the territories of the Ancient Ones, the practices of their worshippers, and the locations of the gates. His realm is the realm of the Night of Time. His number is 4, as the quarters of the earth, and the following is his seal. We're on the next chapter. The next one is the Book of Entrance and of the Walking. The Book of Entrance. This is the Book of Entrance to the 7 zones above the earth, which zones were known to the Chaldeans and to the ancient races that preceded them among the lost temples of Ur. Know that these zones are governed by the celestial spirits, and the passage may be had by the priest through those lands that border on the unzoned wastes beyond. Know that when walking thus through the sea of spheres, his body should leave his watcher behind, that it may guard his body and his property, lest he be slain unawares, and must wander throughout eternity among the dark spaces between the stars, or else be devoured by the wrathful Igigi that dwell beyond. Know that thou must walk the steps of the ladder of lights, each in its place and one at a time, and that thou must enter by the gates in the lawful manner, as is put down in the covenant, else thou art surely lost. Know that thou must keep purified for the space of 1 moon for the entrance to the first step, 1 moon between the first and the second step, and again between the second and the third, and so on in like manner. Thou must abstain from spilling thy seed in any manner for like period of time, but thou mayest worship at the temple of Ishtar, provided thou lose not thine essence, and this is a great secret. Thou must needs call upon thy God in the dawn of light, and upon thy goddess in the light of dusk, every day of the moon of purification. Thou must summon thy watcher, and instruct it perfectly in its duties, providing it with a time and a place whereby it may serve thee, and surround thee with a flaming sword in every direction. Thy clothing for the walking should be fair, clean, and simple, but appropriate to each step. And thou should have with thee the seal of the particular step whereupon thou walkest, which is the seal of the star appertaining thereunto. Thou must needs prepare an altar to face the north, having upon it the statues of thine deities, or some such suitable images, an offering bowl, and a brazier. Upon the earth should be inscribed at the gate appropriate to the walking. If above thee is the sky, so much the better. If there be a roof above thine head, it must be free from all hangings. Not even a lamp should be suspended over thee, save in operations of calling, which is discussed elsewhere. If the gods grant me the time, the only light shall be from the 4 lamps upon the ground, and each of the 4 gates of the earth, of the north, 1 lamp, of the east, 1 lamp, of the south, 1 lamp, and of the west, 1 lamp. The oil should be pure, with no odor, or else sweet-smelling. The perfumes in the brazier should also be sweet-smelling, or especially appropriate to the star, where thou wouldst desire entrance, after the fashion of thy country. The 7 gates here follow. Here's 1. Here's 2. There's 3. This is 4 of Shamash called Udu. That's 5 of Negral. This is the 6th gate of Lord Marduk. And this is the 7th gate of Ninib called Adar. And the ritual of walking must follow the formulae herein described. First, thou must observe the moon of purification. In this time thou mayest not eat meat for the space of 7 days preceding the last day of the moon, and for the space of 3 days preceding the last day of the moon thou mayest not eat anything whatsoever, save to drink sweet water. On the last 3 days thou must invoke, in addition to thy god and goddess, the 3 great elder ones, Anu, Enlil, Enki, by their proper invocations. And the number of Anu is 60, the perfect number, for he is father of the heavens. And the number of Enlil is 50, and he is the father of the wind. And the number of Enki is 40, a most excellent number. And he is our father of all who would tread these forgotten paths, and wander into lands unknown among the wastes amid frightful monsters of the Azanai. Second, on the night of the walking, which must be the 13th night of the moon, having begun on the previous 13th night, thou must approach the gate with awe and respect. Thy temple is exercised. Thou must light the fire and conjure it by the invocation of the god of fire, and pour incense thereon. Thou must make offering to the deities on the altar. Third, thou must light the 4 lamps from their flaming brazier, reciting the invocation proper to each of these watchtowers, in its proper place, summoning the respective star. Fourth, thou must recite the invocation of the watcher, thrusting the sword into the earth at its station, not touching it until it is the appointed time for its departure. Fifth, thou must take the seal of the star in thy right hand and whisper its name softly upon it. Sixth, thou must recite the incantation of the walking, loudly and in a clear voice, as thou walkest about the gate, in a circular fashion, beginning at the north and walking to the east, then to the south and to the west, the number of times being equal to the special number of the star. Seventh, thou must needs arrive back at the center of the gate, before thine altar, at which time thou must fall to the ground, looking neither to the right nor to the left at what may be moving there. For these operations attract many kinds of wandering demon and ghost to the gates. But in the air above the altar whereupon thou wilt presently see the gate opening for thee, and the spirit messenger of the sphere greeting thee in a clear voice, and giving thee a name, which thou must remember, for that is the name of thy passing of the gate, which thou must use each time thou passest thereby. The same spirit messenger will meet thee, and if thou know not thy name, he will forbid thee entrance, and thou wilt fall to the earth immediately. When the first gate has been entered, and the name received, thou wilt fall back to the earth amid thine temple. That which has been moving about thy gate on the grounds will have gone. Recite thine thanksgiving to the gods upon thine altar. Strike the sword of the watcher, that it may depart. And give the incantation of Inanna, which says how she conquered the realm of the underworld and vanquished Cthulhu. All Idumu will vanish thereby, and thou wilt thus be free to depart to the gate and extinguish the fire. Thou mayest not call upon Inanna till thou hast passed the gate of Inanna. Thou mayest not call Nebo until his gate hast thou passed. Similarly, for the rest of the gates, when thou hast ascended to the limit of the ladder of lights, thou wilt have knowledge and power over the spheres, and wilt be able to summon them thereby in times of need. This will not give thee power over the Absu, however, this power being obtained differently by the ritual of descent. This ritual thou wilt undertake in the 15th day after the 13th of the month, when thou hast summoned the gate of Marduk to the open. For Marduk slew the fiends, and Inanna, the goddess of the 15, conquered the netherworld where some of theirs still dwell. This is a most perilous rite. This is a most perilous rite, and may be undertaken by any man who has the formula, whether he has passed the previous gates or not, save that it is best advised to have passed through Marduk Gate before venturing forth into the pit. For this reason, few have ever opened the gate of Adar, and spoken to the Horned One who resideth there, and given all manner of wisdom regarding the operations of necromancy, and of the spells that hasten unto death. Only when thou hast shown thy power over the Maxim and the Rebishu mayest thou venture forth to the land of Igigi, and for that reason was this covenant made. That none shall safely walk through the sunken valleys of the dead before having ascended to Marduk, nor shall they breach the gates that lie beyond Adar until they have seen the signs of the mad god and felt the fury of the hellish queen. And against the ancient ones there is only defense. Only a madman, indeed, such as I am called, can hope to have power over them that dwell in the outer spaces, for their power is unknown, and the number of their hordes uncounted, and each day they breed more horrors that a man's mind can conceive, and the sight of which he can hardly bear. There was a time when the gate to the outside was open too long, and I witnessed the horror that struck, of which words cannot speak, and of which writing can only confuse. The ancient one that has escaped to the inner world was forced back through the gate by a magician of great power, but only at a great loss to the villages and flocks of the island. Many sheep were slain after an unnatural fashion, and many devoured, and many rendered senseless, for the mind perceives what it is shown. The sight of the ancient ones is a blasphemy to the ordinary senses of man, for they come from a world that is not straight, but crooked, and their existence is of forms unnatural and painful to the eye and to the mind, whereby the spirit is threatened, and wrenches loose from the body in flight. And for that reason, the fearful Utukuzul take possession of the body and dwell therein, until the priest banish them back to whence they came, and the normal spirit may return to its erstwhile neighborhood. And there are all the Alu, frightening dog-faced demons that are the messengers of the gods of prey, and that chew on the very bones of a man. And there are many another, of which this is not thought the rightful place, wherein they may be mentioned, save to warn the priest against ambitions, striving against the ancient ones of the outside, until mastery is acquired over the powers that reside within. Only when Adar has been obtained, may the priest consider himself a master over the planes of the spheres, and able to wrestle with the old gods. Once death herself has been stared in the eye, can the priest then summon and control the denizens of death's darkly curtained halls? Then can he hope to open the gate without fear and without that loathing of the spirit that slays man. Then can he hope to have power over the demons that plague the mind and the body, pulling at the hair and grasping at the hands and screaming vile names into the airs at night. For what comes on the wind can only be slain by he who knows the wind, and what comes on the seas can only be slain by he who knows waters. Thus it is written in the ancient covenant. I'm at the next chapter, the Incantations of the Gates. Spirit of the moon, remember. Nana, the father of the astral gods, remember. In the name of the covenant sworn between thee and the race of men, I call to thee, hearken, remember. From the gates of the earth I call thee, from the four gates of the land I pray to thee. O Lord, hero of the gods, who in heaven and upon the earth is exalted, Lord Nana, of the race of Anu, hear me. Lord Nana, called Sin, hear me. Lord Nana, father of the gods of Ur, hear me. Lord Nana, god of the shining crown of night, hear me. Maker of kings, progenitor of the land, giver of the gilded scepter, hear me, remember. Mighty Father, whose thought is behind comprehension of gods and men, hear me, remember. Gate of the great gates of the spheres, open unto me. Master of the Ijiji, swing open thy gate. Master of the Anunnaki, open the gate to the stars. Ya Namarasit Yasin, Ya Nana, Basta Maganasta, Yakia Kampa, Magabati Ya Nana Kampa, Mashrita Nana Zia Kampa, Ya Mag, Yagumag, Ya Zagasena Kia, Ashtag Karaliosh. Spirit of swift planet, remember. Nebo, father of the sacred writing, remember. In the name of the covenant sworn between thee and the race of men, I call to thee, hearken, and remember. From the gate of the great god Nana, I call to thee. By the name which I was given on the lunar sphere, I call to thee. Lord Nebo, who does not know of thy wisdom. Lord Nebo, who does not know of thy magic. Salvo says, I feel like I just sold my soul and didn't even know it. I know what you mean. That is the vibe of this book. Lord Nebo, what spirit on earth or in heavens is not compelled by the magic of thy spells? Nebo Curios, Lord of the subtle arts, open up the gate to the sphere of thy spirit. Nebo Curios, master of the chemical science, open the gate of the sphere of thy workings. Gate of the swift planet, Mercurios, open unto me. Ya Asthathu, Ya Angaku, Ya Zinebo, Marzas Zifornias Kampa, Lahakas Shintalsas Kampa, Nebo Sathanatos Kampa, Yagash, Yasash, Kakolomaniyash, Ya Makakali. Spirit of Venus, remember. Ishtar, mistress of the gods, remember. Ishtar, queen of the land of the rising sun, remember. Lady of ladies, goddess of goddesses, Ishtar, queen of all people, remember. O bright rising torch of heaven and earth, remember. O destroyer of the hostile hordes, remember. Lioness, queen of the battle, hearken and remember. From the gate of the great god Nebo I call thee, by the name which I was given on the sphere of Nebo, I call thee. Lady queen of harlots and of soldiers, I call to thee. Lady mistress of battle and of love, I pray thee remember. In the name of the covenant sworn between thee and the race of men, I call to thee, hearken and remember. Suppressor of the mountains, supporter of arms, deity of men, goddess of women, where thou gazest, the dead live. Ishtar, queen of the night, open thy gate to me. Ishtar, lady of the battle, open wide thy gate. Ishtar, lady of the gift of love, open wide thy gate. Gate of the gentle planet, Libat, open unto me. Ya Gusheya, Ya Inanna, Ya Ernini Ya. At Ashta Pama Chaba Chakor Eniya, Rabmi Yolak, Ziishtari Kampa, Inanna Ziyama Kanpa, Bizama Kanpa, Ya Ya Ya, Beyi Razuluki. The invocation of Shamash Gate. Shamash, Lord of the fiery disk, remember, in the name of the covenant sworn between thee and the race of men, I call to thee, hearken and remember. From the gate of the beloved Ishtar, the sphere of Libat, I call to thee. Illuminator of darkness, destroyer of evil, lamp of wisdom, I call to thee. Shamash, bringer of light, I call to thee. Cthulhu is burned by thy might, Azagthoth is fallen off his throne before thee. Ishnigarab is scorched black by thy rays. Spirit of the burning disk, remember. Spirit of the never-ending light, remember. Spirit of the rending of the veils of night, dispeller of darkness, remember. Spirit of the opening of the day, open wide thy gate. Spirit who rises between the mountains with splendor, open thy gate to me. By the name which I was given on the sphere of Ishtar, I ask thy gate to open. Gate of the sun, open to me. Gate of the golden scepter, open to me. Ya Udula, Ya Rusuluksi, Saktamaranya, Ya, Atsarachiya, Atsaralechiyu, Bartala Katakamani, Ya Kanpa, Zidingir, Udu Ya Kanpa, Zidingir Ushtu Ya Kanpa, Zishta, Zidaraku, Zibeluduk, Kanpa, Yashta, Kanpa, Ya. The invocation of the Nurgle Gate. Spirit of the red planet, remember. Nurgle, god of war, remember. Nurgle, vanquisher of enemies, commander of hosts, remember. Nurgle, slayer of lions and of men, remember. In the name of the covenant sworn between thee and the races of men, I call to thee. Hearken and remember. From the great gate of the Lord Shamash of the sphere of the sun, I call to thee. Nurgle, god of the sacrifice of blood, remember. Nurgle, lord of offerings of battle, revenger of the enemy's towns, devourer of the flesh of man, remember. Nurgle, welder of the mighty sword, remember. Nurgle, lord of arms and armies, remember. Spirit of the glow of battlefield, open wide thy gate. Spirit of the entrance unto death, open thy gate unto me. Spirit of the sailing lance, the thrusting sword, the flying rock, open the gate to thy sphere, to the one who has no fear. Oh, where is it? To the one who has no fear. I have totally lost my space. Marduk, Lord of the 50 powers, open thy gates to me. Marduk, God of 50 names, open thy gates to thy servant. By the name which I was given on the sphere of Nergal, I call thee to open. Gate of the great God, open. Gate of the great God to the double-headed axe, open. Gate of the Lord of the world between worlds, open. Open. Gate of conqueror of the monsters from the sea, open. Gate of the golden city of Sagala, open. Ya Dag, Ya Gat, Ya Margalak Babanesh, Ya Marakutu, Ya Tuku, Surim, Sugurim, Zarim, Zagurim, Aksangaban, Naksagzagaban, the Bilukuku. Spirit of the wanderer of the wastes, remember. Spirit of the planet of time, remember. Spirit of the planet of the hunter, remember. Ninib, Lord of the dark ways, remember. Ninib, Lord of the secret passages, remember. Ninib, knower of the secrets of all things, remember. Ninib, knower of the ways of the ancient ones, remember. Ninib, horned one of silence, remember. Ninib, watcher of the ways of the Ijiji, remember. Ninib, knower of the pathways of the dead, remember. In the name of the covenant sworn between thee and the race of men, I call to thee, hearken and remember. From the mighty gate of the Lord of the gods, Marduk, sphere of the great planet, I call to thee, hearken and remember. Ninib, dark wanderer of the forgotten lands, hearken and remember. Ninib, gatekeeper of the astral gods, open thy gate to me. Ninib, master of the chase and the long journey, open thy gate to me. Gate of the double-horned elder gods, open. Gate of the last city of the skies, open. Gate of the secret of all time, open. Gate of the master of magical power, open. Gate of the lord of all sorcery, open. Gate of the vanquisher of all equal spirits, hearken and open. By the name which I was given on the sphere of Marduk, master of magicians, I call thee to open. Yaduk, Ya Andara, Ya Zi Batu Baalu, Balagu Beldirigu, Baaga, Ka Kanpa, Belzi Exa Exa, Azagbat, Bazag Baroniosh, Zeli. I think I'm going to take a break before I do the next chapter. I might go looking for honeycomb so I can come back and do ASMR. I might go looking for honeycomb and something to adjust my guitar. And then I'll come back. It was cool hanging out. I'm going to try to come back later this evening. And I'm going to read more of Necronomicon, I think. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you soon.